There was never a goodbye. I give you a scared cry. You may forgot my beef with you, so here's my reason why.
So your new Halloween trick is singing your infamous theme song really close to the phone.
Because it's a very catchy song that will create thousands of fears by singing it constantly and annoying the crap out of people. Yay, now here comes my...
Wasn't I supposed to make this a scary intro?
Well, I mean, Tim Curry has his own balloon addiction that apparently scares people, so why can't this?
Oh, good point.
The filming Daniel.
Here's Daddy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm kind of getting sick of this joke, okay? I did it last year for both of my It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2 reviews, and they don't seem to be working here. And I got my notebook ready, so let's just get on with the review, shall we? Hey guys, it's Daniel here, and welcome to another installment of the Filming Daniel
Halloween video.
So yeah, another year has passed. God, these times go faster than I expected. Where did the time go eventually? And I was struggling to think about what I wanted to review for this Halloween. I'm gonna watch a few things, but just for this video, I decided that, well, remember last year for last Halloween's reviews, I talked about It and It Chapter 2. Really liked the first one. I love the second one, and I think both of them are just as equally just as special. Although I do appreciate the first film because it definitely reminded me of like the kind of 80s aesthetic. What was it, 1989 that movie took place in? About a group of kids encountering horrific events. I really like that kind of story, and of course, the iconic Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise the Clown is an excellent horror movie villain, and a very intelligent villain as well, to take advantage of these kids' weaknesses. But with the current release of its prequel series, It Welcome to Derry, which I am really excited to see and see wrap up and see how it goes on, and I will be doing a review for it once the full season is wrapped up, I decided that with the fact that I've already talked about the It movies that series is a prequel to, I also realised that I have not talked about what was the first ever adaptation of the original Stephen King book, and that is the classic Tim Curry miniseries. Well, miniseries, but they're both in a 3-hour film. What is this? Like, what do you call it? I don't know. Well, with it being a mini-series, I'll say it's a mini-series or a movie the more I go into this review, but
With that said, let's get to the special Halloween review of the classic Tim Curry 1990 miniseries, It!
now this original adaptation pretty much like mirrors the same stories of like any other adaptation of It, whether it's the original Stephen King book or the live action movies that were released recently. But for those of you who don't know, the story of It is that it takes place in the town of Derry, where a bunch of kids who get together to form the Losers Club have to face off against a mysterious and very creepy and ominous clown known as Pennywise the Dancing Clown. However, the film also jumps from timeline to timeline for when the losers as kids are facing against It, but they are called back to Derry as adults because the presence of It is still lurking around. Plus, when one of the losers, named Bill, ends up losing his brother Georgie to It, he becomes determined to dedicate his battle with It to Georgie as the losers try to figure out how they can stop Pennywise the Clown. Now, I did watch this mini-series before, and it was after I watched It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2. I remember it kind of being a bit cheesy and a bit dated and all that stuff, and, well, technically that's kind of how I feel about it nowadays, but after watching the 1990 Tim Curry miniseries for this video, I will have to say it's a mixed bag, okay? I mean, it's not terrible or as bad as everyone else is saying it is, but it also isn't a timeless classic that I can really connect to as much as the It movies. I guess I can compare this one to the movies, but the thing is that the movies were released like years after this original miniseries, so even though It fans would like try to compare the movies to the miniseries, I'm comparing the miniseries to the movies. So I guess it's just my personal kind of representation of how I saw these movies. But as It 1990 as its own, I think it's a mixed bag. But before I get to some problems, let's talk about the good. Honestly, I think the first big thing you guys are going to want to hear my thoughts about is, of course, the elephant in the room, Tim Curry's performance as Pennywise the Dancing Clown. Now, I can tell Bill Skarsgård definitely had to go through a very different take compared to Tim Curry, because whereas Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise that was years in the future from this miniseries can be pretty silly, but also kind of crap your pants scary, Tim Pennywise, in my opinion, there is something a little creepy about his whenever he shows his sharp teeth. But for most of the time, he's not scary, like, at all. He's just a regular clown, and that really doesn't completely support the horror elements that this film is trying to explore. Although, to be honest, I think it does work in this version's favour, because Pennywise being like an ordinary clown and being all silly and wacky, the way that Tim plays him, does help to support Pennywise's plans to lure the kids into his canines. And I think it works well in this one compared to the one in the movies. However, by looking at Tim's performance, I don't consider him to be scary in the slightest, but I can tell that he's having a lot of fun with the role. He definitely embodies the personality and silliness of a clown, which really helps to support the kind of mask he's facing while also covering up who he really is, or what it is. It's an it. And plus, he does have so many iconic lines that even people who don't think it's scary still find it to be so iconic. Like the classic,
"Hiya, Georgie. I am Pennywise, the Dancing Clown."
or one of the most iconic moments of all time,
"Do you have Prince Albert in a can?" "You do? Well, you better let the poor guy out."
wah, wah, wah. Like, to be honest, I'm actually kind of surprised that people have said that they're actually afraid of this version of Pennywise, and actually consider this version of Pennywise scarier than Bill Skarsgård's, because I think Tim Curry's Pennywise is just a riot. He's not scary in the slightest, but he is a lot of fun to watch, and he definitely carries a lot of energy whenever he's on screen, and I repeat, whenever he's on screen. We'll talk about that later. As for the other performances, to be honest, what I really liked about this version of It is kind of the same as what I really loved about the It movies, and that is the section in focusing on the kids. I think that the kids were actually really well written, really well performed by the actors, and for me, what I actually kind of appreciate about this one more than some of the things they did in It Chapter 1 is that they actually gave each member of the Losers Club some equal screen time during the child sections. Because with the It movie that was released in 2017, I felt like the pacing was a bit rushed, that it felt like Bill, Bev and Ben were getting more focus than the other members of the Losers Club. And, you know, I do like that the It Chapter 1 was more fleshed out. It's just that a few things were rushed. And this one definitely is faster than that one. But each member of the Losers Club, I personally, from my perspective, I think they got just about of equal screen time for me to actually kind of connect with each member as a character on their own. I felt for Bill's despair about what happened to Georgie. I felt Beverly's like toxic abuse from her father. I felt Ben's like need to like really fit in with this group of friends. Eddie is a very sympathetic character. Mike is a very sympathetic character. Stanley, he isn't as strong as a character as the other losers for me, but he's still pretty good. And of course we have, Richie, who this version isn't as scene-stealing as Bill Hader or Finn Wolfhard, but he still is a really good character. I really liked his like quippy banter and him doing voices, which makes sense because, for those of you who don't know or can't tell, Richie in this version, Kid Richie, is played by a young Seth Green. Yeah, Richie as a kid is played by Chris Griffin himself, which, okay, that's pretty cool. To be honest, I also really had a strong warm-hearted feel for like the 90s aesthetic and the use of like the idea of a group of kids in the 90s having like to band together to face off something together as a group of friends. It really reminded me so much of Stranger Things, and I remember seeing a film called Stand By Me. I haven't watched it all, but I definitely felt that kind of connection as well. And of course it also reminded me of The Goonies, which again, really like. I love that kind of story about a group of kids that become friends during like the 80s or the 90s, and just having that kind of feel for the 90s, just, it actually kind of, I wasn't born in the 90s, and yet I still kind of felt a good feeling watching these kids interacting with each other, and each member had strong chemistry with each other, and they do support each other. I actually really like how in this version we have the rock fight between the Losers Club and Henry Bowers and his group, and Henry actually hits Beverly with one of the rocks. She hurts herself in pain, and Ben charges at Bowers and kicks him. I like that. I really like that. I love that Ben kind of stood up to Henry in this scene, because it's like full payback now for him nearly cutting him earlier in the film. I love that. I think that's a really good moment, and I just realised we haven't seen that kind of scene like that in the It Chapter 1. So yeah, I think the kids section of this movie was very endearing to watch. I think that the 90s aesthetic was kind of nice to look at, and of course Tim Curry was a lot of fun. Come think of it, I think those are all the good things I can remember about watching this film. Now let's get into the things that I'm not particularly fond of with this movie. In my opinion, the biggest issue with this movie is that I understand that not everything in the movie can be scary, but it should at least have moments of genuine threat. For most of the film, I wasn't scared. I wasn't threatened by Pennywise and his, like, balloon addiction. I just was like, oh wow, there's a lot of balloons, oh look, there's a talking head in the fridge. I don't find it scary, I just find it funny. They usually turn moments of horror in this film into a sketch. For me, it made me think, well, are they trying to be scary with this stuff? Because, I mean, maybe if somebody watched it as like a little kid, maybe they find it scary, but some of this stuff I just think is more of a skit more than a genuine horror. Especially this one moment where Pennywise transforms his head into a dog. And I do agree with Nostalgia Critic, where it's like, oh, it's funny. What was that? It's supposed to be scary? Well, it's not. It's not! I personally felt like that I more saw the It miniseries as more of a fun thing to watch, rather than trying to go in there to see great writing of genuine horror. I mean, even if you were a kid, you can't tell me that you found the balloons to be scary, because it's just, oh look, there's balloons everywhere. You scared of balloons? You're affected by helium or something? Yeah, it doesn't work. Which is why I appreciate that the new movies kind of do make balloons scary, because all of the balloons are red and they're being used to reveal something. So whenever you see a close-up red balloon, you're gonna know it's it. And speaking of it, Pennywise is not threatening. He's not. He's just silly, and he's not intimidating in the slightest. And the biggest thing that makes me realise of how unintimidating he is that whenever he has a chance to like go after a kid, or whenever he's facing a member of the Losers Club, he doesn't really hurt them. He doesn't really, like, charge at them with his sharpened teeth. All the formula for each moment is he disguises himself as something that the losers are afraid of until he reveals himself to be a funny clown, talks about his floating addiction, has his sharp teeth, and then does nothing. He doesn't really kill them. He doesn't try to eat the kids. He just stands there and does nothing. What's he got other stuff? What, is he missing out on the events of Home Alone 2? Come on, Tim. Do something threatening. And he's not threatening. He's just funny, which I can't really see too much of a problem with because, you know, I did find Tim Curry to be funny as Pennywise, but I don't find him to be a horrific character or intimidating in the slightest. And even though I do appreciate that he looks like a normal clown, which is a better disguise than I felt like Bill Skarsgård's clown is, because, let's be honest, Bill Skarsgård's clown disguise, there's still something a little bit creepy about it, which, yeah, does kind of, like, derail the chances of somebody figuring it out. But, for me, what made Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise so memorable is, even if he's not scary, he's at least threatening to the losers because he actually does make efforts to charge at them with his sharp teeth and try to finish off the job. Tim's Pennywise just stands there and just... They all float. I love floating. Oh, I feel some sort of rush whenever I talk about how much the balloons float. Oh, it feels nice. Another problem that I found with this version of it is that, remember when I said earlier that this movie goes back and forth between the kids' timeline and the adult timeline because we focus on a timeline of 27 years after the kids kind of face off against it, and the Losers Club as adults have to get back together because Mike calls them back? I'm not gonna lie, I found the adult segment of this film to be pretty boring and dull. It really slows the pacing down and as not much is happening, and even though it is chance for character development, I just wasn't able to connect with them as adults as much as I was with them when they were kids. I mean, I don't think the actors are bad. I think they have charisma. I think the actor for Bill definitely captures a lot of nervousness, and seeing some of these characters visit their old locations. We have grown-up Ben, who's very likeable. He's just a likeable big red dog. I'm not saying that as a name. He's actually the voice for Clifford the Big Red Dog, John Ritter, which... okay, pretty cool. You got Chris Griffin and Clifford the Big Red Dog in a horror 90s movie. I just found a lot of the adult sections to be pretty boring because we're mainly having the adults standing in one place as they just try to think about what they can do about it. Whereas with It Chapter 2, and I apologise for trying to compare the movies and things, it's just my personal experience, but with It Chapter 2, each loser had to go into different locations of Derry to collect an artifact to help defeat it using the ritual of Chud. Whereas with this one, they just kind of stand in the same place and they see balloons, they see pretty much nothing for most of it, and actually, wasn't there a clown in this movie? Yeah, I will also say Pennywise is a bit underused, and I get we're not supposed to see him too much just to, you know, build up some more suspense, but there are like so many moments where he's just out of the movie for like 15 to 20 minutes and he does not appear in the story, and by the end, I won't give too much away, but the final threat with him isn't as satisfying because of the form that he takes at the end. I mean, I get that that would work for like human horror and what humans would be afraid of, but if you're going to do it like that, don't have a familiar face like Pennywise. Just have this essence showing up as different forms and we're not exactly sure what its main form is without having an identifiable presence. Just kind of show it like you did The Shining, where there was multiple spirits around the hotel and we don't have a central focus except Jack Torrance, who is the victim that's fallen for the spirits and essence that's in the hotel. And while I do like the 90s aesthetic and it kind of has like a warm feeling towards it, I can also tell that a lot of things in this movie was still a bit dated. Especially the visual effects, because the movie uses blending mix of stop motion animation and practical effects, like puppetry and all that stuff. And while I have nothing against combining animation with puppetry, these moments don't blend well together, because the transition from stop motion to realistic effect is undeniably hard to ignore, and I can tell that that moment was stop motion and that moment was real, and they don't gel well together. And again, it's the 90s, so they were probably still discovering things back then, and probably for its time it would have been really good. I just think that nowadays it does kind of look a bit dated. And lastly, looking back at the movie and also talking to my brother about it, I can't exactly tell what kind of tone this movie wants to explore when it comes to how the other members of Derry have their kind of interactions with the Losers Club. Because one of the major facts about like the entire It franchise is that the adults in It, in Derry, don't care about the kids and how they can act very creepy or abusive or predatory or possessive. Here, this miniseries wants to show that there are some good adult characters in Derry, and come think of it, I actually kind of saw more kind characters than bad characters. So when I see that the film wants to explore that this town is possessed because these people are bad, I was like, well, maybe Henry Bowers and his crew. I mean, granted, Henry Bowers and his crew, they're entertaining now and again, but they're not exactly memorable because they just kind of stock cold bullies. But if you're going to show that this town is possessed by how they just ignore the kids and don't care about it, why show some nice people, which I personally appreciated, but it does kind of affect the tone of what we're going for. And, you know, I hate to repeat myself again, but in the goddamn Bill Skarsgård movies, the first It showed that pretty much nearly all the adults, besides maybe one or two, don't care about the kids. They don't care about the bullying. They show how kind of possessive they are. They show how creepy and predatory they can be, which makes them come off as creep sickos. And they completely ignore the bullying that's going on that the losers are going through. So it does kind of make it seem like hard to tell what kind of tone this miniseries wants to explore with the town. So overall, guys, I will say I am kind of mixed with this miniseries. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not great either. It's pretty cheesy, it's pretty dated, it can be a slog, it can be a bore to sit through, but there are some entertaining parts about it. I think the stuff with the kids are really good, and of course Tim Curry is a hoot to watch, but I don't find Pennywise to be intimidating, and I don't get why he doesn't go after the kids instead of just standing there. The adult segments are pretty boring to watch, and I can tell that this film has a bit of a dating issue with its practical effects. But, you know, it can be entertaining, but honestly, I am going to go back to the It movies, and I am looking forward to It Welcome to Derry. I think those movies definitely had the more, like, favoritism, because they're the movies I experienced with It the most. I do appreciate that this version shows more focus, like, gives the members of the Losers Club equal focus. That makes me wish that the It movie did, but, you know, it's still eh. So, overall, what should I give it? I think I'll give it a 2 3/4 of a star out of 5, which I believe would be like a 5.5 out of 10. It's meh, but nothing special. But, you know, if you want a bit of cheesy, goofy fun and having a little bit of a fun night with Halloween, pointing out some good things and having fun with this kind of miniseries, I definitely say you can go check it out. But anyway, guys, what do you think of It 1990? Do you love it? Do you hate it? And what is your favourite 90s adaptation of a Stephen King book? Let me know in the comment section below. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed your Halloween!
Alright, that's enough, cheapskate. I'm the one with the silly laugh around here.
Okay, seriously, CriticJuice, how exactly are you here right now? I thought you were just a costume that I created for my Poltergeist review. Links here.
What, don't you remember? I'm a very special known character now, and I got my own spin-off. Links here.
Oh, that's right, you did get your own spin-off. It was created by Daniel... damn it. Ooh, what the Vickers is his name? I got it. Daniel Watt. Yeah, Daniel Watt created this character to have his own spin-off, so... pretty shocking, huh?
Well, it does demonstrate you being a dummy.
Well, I suppose so. Anyway, I'm Daniel, reviewing movies, TV shows, and doing videos.
And don't forget to like and subscribe, or I will do to you what I did to that director that betrayed me and caused me my vengeance. My vengeance.
What he said. Peace out, man.